Yeah! It's Josh Williams here, guys, and welcome to another bonus episode of the One Man Podcast, brought to you by Absolute Comedy. My guest today doesn't know that we're recording the second the music starts, so those little hums and haws you'll hear are Alex. My guest today, Alex Nussbaum. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, and I had a feeling that I was being heard there.
Good. You're like you and Pete Johansson, the only two people who've ever talked over the beginning. So this music starts like, I like this.
Right.
But it's all in there. I have no post-production. I just...
Oh, really? Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I don't edit any of this either. So whatever we talk about, I mean, theoretically would be heard. Because I find like as soon as you start chopping things out, you might change the context of something.
Possibly.
Right?
Possibly.
Yeah. So...
that also means, though, that the fact that I don't have a glass of water.
I was just going to say that. As soon as I took a sip, I'm like, I fucked you over. Well, guess what? We're starting this podcast that way. So I'll tell you what, let me get into a question here. I even took the fucking headphones off. You're here at Absolute Comedy all week.
Yeah.
We worked together on Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. That was a fun show. And I didn't even realize you were here this week until I got to the club. So that's when I was like, dude, if you have time, we should sit down and do a podcast. Luckily, that worked out.
Right. Why is that you didn't know? Like you, it gives me
Because
the sense that normally
I don't care who's here.
Right. Okay. I thought I was special in that you didn't know.
No, I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
You were special in that case. You were special. Listen, there's fucking comics here every single week, and I don't go out of my way. I don't want to waste any time talking. I'm kidding. Like I liked you enough to invite you to the podcast. I didn't apparently enough to get you a drink so that you could.
No, I actually
enjoyed the experience.
I actually waited until we started.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I was too busy plugging cords in and asking if there was any personal subjects that we couldn't talk about.
Yeah. No, I was hoping for this kind of a scenario.
Yeah. Good.
Where now you're kind of in a position where you have to walk away from your own podcast.
That's fine. The fucking fridge is right there.
Maybe we can both walk away. I'll go back to the massage chair over there.
Yeah. How'd you like the massage chair?
I felt it was a little. It's good for your walking away, so I can just me and the listeners at home or wherever they happen to be. Well, I did find. Well, I don't know. Maybe I wanted to tell you while you have a way to respond to what I'm saying.
I'm gonna respond. I'm right fucking here.
Do you think they can pick it up?
No ice?
Do you think no ice? Do you think they'll be? Can they pick up what you're? Can they hear you from there?
Can you hear me right now? That's why we wear the headphones, so we know what we're hearing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can hear you through the headphones as well.
Yeah, because the mics are picking them up.
No, but also I'm saying that I can hear you because you're 5 feet away from me.
We through them. They're noise canceling. Go fuck yourself.
They're not. That's not how noise canceling works.
Sure it is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it means that everything that's not coming through the thing is filtered
noise.
up.
Yeah, but not quite. Noise.
We've been arguing. By the way, we went out for lunch first. We've been arguing about not even arguing. We're just deconstructing everything in front of us. We went to Colonnade Pizza, a staple here in Ottawa.
Yes.
I don't know if I should have mentioned them by name because we've got I have unfavorable things to say about the experience.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
You do.
Well, whatever. Listen, they're great. This is the first time I've ever not had a stellar experience.
It wasn't terrible.
No, it wasn't terrible. We ate first. They had a thing, guys. If you happen to be, on the Facebook feeds, we checked in there with a hashtag I love, what is it, Colonnade Maribel Pizza or
Now
whatever.
you're helping them. I mean, you just went from saying that you had some negative things to now you're
I was helping them because I love them. They are normally generally good.
Okay.
But apparently at noon on a Thursday, not so much.
Yeah.
At least at that particular location. And I'll tell you what, I'll leave a little bit of the mystery in which one we were at, even though I just named it. So you better be paying attention or be capable of hitting the rewind button. But regardless, we went for lunch and Alex likes salad and fungus on his pizza. And I don't know what's wrong with the cups.
They're called vegetables, by the way.
They're called
I'm not getting a salad.
You got a salad and salad.
You're misrepresenting me to make me look like I'm one of these weirdos who likes to have. What is this?
I'm just going to throw a picture on Instagram of us recording. Luckily, Simon naked in the background happened moments later. This is Alex with his frustratingly.
You're saying he's lurking behind me without me knowing?
He was. He doesn't. Simon lurking is actually the best word because Simon is a lurker. He'll He'll travel around this house. You never hear him coming. He comes upstairs super quietly. These stairs creak, but Simon somehow navigates them flawlessly. And then you'll be just, putting cream in coffee or something and saying, hello, and you're, fuck's sakes. And it's right, the staircase to the basement is right in the kitchen. So he's just there. You don't know, no word of it. And sometimes what he'll do is he'll cough to not scare you, but he still does that at the top of the fucking stairs right behind you. So it's still, you may as well just grab me when I'm not fucking looking.
Right.
Anyways.
Sounds like got a good living situation here.
Yeah. Well, we've gone into 5 different subjects now. Alex is less than happy about it. It's a plastic cup and you want to tap water.
I had no problem with it. I was just wondering where
the only person I know that wants to be served tap water in a fucking crystal glass. Can I have the cheapest, worst product in the best presentation possible?
No. I it's interesting because you're saying a lot, and it's in no way coming from anything I did.
I'm reading what you put in front of me. All right, this is your script.
Okay, so if the people listening want to
they don't believe me,
and why would they want to know? Who gives a crap about any of this? But I was merely admiring the glass in the light because it has a green hue, and I was like, oh, well, what portion of the glass is that green coming from?
The bottom.
And then nothing but vitriol from you, nothing but a lashing out. For what reason? I don't know.
Foreshadowing.
It's because of the fact that we were talking about complaining that you assumed I was about to complain.
You feed a fat guy bad pizza, it's like dropping a stone into a pond. Who knows how far the rings will go?
Do you remember saying earlier as we were driving from that place, you said something about categorizing people? You just did that to yourself.
Yeah, but I said a fat guy, and I am that fat guy.
I know that, but you're
not
putting
all fat
yourself
people.
in. You're putting yourself in your what do you call it?
A box. Yes, and it better be a big box.
There
we go. Hey, I'm setting him up and I'm knocking him down easy.
Yeah, well,
nice and easy.
I knew what I was doing there. I wasn't happy about it because I knew the outcome. But I'd say more like a shipping container. But anyway, the thing is,
my feelings.
Ouch.
Isn't that what we were going for?
I was just saying,
we're supposed to be hurt by all of this.
I was going to say if we're going to do it, let's do it. But the massage chair, I felt it was actually not as comfortable. There was a lot of unpleasant rubbing, like a kind of the material was a bit. And then there was
Have you ever looked up the word massage?
Well, massage doesn't
typically
usually
feel bad. You feel bad during, and then you feel better afterwards.
No. But but a massage is not supposed to incorporate a rough material to give you some kind of a rug burn while you're enjoying. And then the other thing, I have had a massage, by the way, a few of them. In no way, no point in the massage does someone grab hold of your thighs and then hold them as tightly as they can, and then just keep holding them and then never letting them go. And that's what this weird chair did.
You don't need to treat yourself.
While sending jolts of vibration towards. I'm just saying that whatever, I don't know what brand this is or model, but I wonder if anal play is in the title of.
Dude, it's a leather chair.
But I was aroused.
Yeah.
Anally.
This thing has almost like a little taint massage tool in there.
Yeah, it was more than that.
The taint tickler.
It went deep into the.
Yeah, everyone says that. Women love it because they're like, "Oh, what's happening down there?" Yeah. But for us, we're just like, I don't, it moves back and forth. So for us, it hits just the butthole. For them, it hits, I don't know, the gooch, the chota, the vagina, probably.
Yeah. No, I felt like
I'm not a doctor.
I felt like I wanted to get involved. I wanted to help out.
You're ready to make a commitment?
I wanted to help out. No, I liked where it was going, but I wanted to also.
I see.
Let
me get that for you.
It's sort of like it's sort of like, all right, I see what you're doing. Let me just unzip this.
It's like that 90-10, right? That thing was going 90, and you were like, I was trying to give it the 10 to be like green light.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a Me Too moment, Chair. We are going to, I consent.
I never said any of those things. But
that's how good at GarageBand I am, though. I can take your voice wavelength and I can make those words yours.
Is that?
No,
wow,
I can't do that. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I don't even know if that's a real thing. But that's how fucking horrifying would that be if that was a thing?
It isn't exactly that, but yes, they can sample.
They brought that Star Wars guy back to life in Rogue One.
They do that. No, they sample someone's voice, and then they can have it say whatever you want. They've already, I think like a year or two ago, they showed that. I saw a video of them doing that. So that is available, like where you can have someone sound like, I think it was like Obama or, and then it's just saying whatever you want, just type in whatever you want it to say.
Yeah. There's certain ones you'd never even need that. It's like, we need to sound like Christopher Walken is saying something like, oh, we've only got 1,000 volunteers
we're
somehow
good.
before we've even posted anything. There's already people volunteering to do that.
Let me do it. Let me.
Yeah.
People are shy in the bedroom too, right? Sometimes they want the lights off. I get that. But I'm a guy, I'm visual. I'll compromise, I'll turn off the lights, but just don't get all weird when you brush up against my night vision goggles. You know, it's give and take. I don't want my most intimate moments to feel like I'm conducting a Black Ops mission, but if it makes you feel more comfortable, it's the gift that I give. Some people are shy. Some people are shy when they hug you. I sometimes get one of those hugs where it's like, are we hugging around a table? What are we doing? Like, I get it, you know. Sometimes you ladies want to send that message. Keep your nipples to yourself. I get it. Just don't pat me on the back. I don't like that. It's a bit condescending. I feel like if you're going to pat me on the back during a hug, I get to lean in and burp. That's what I do. Oh, thanks. That was jamming up the work since lunch. Lifesaver. Yeah. Communication's hard in the bedroom, though, right? People, you don't know what they want. Say nasty things to me. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't say things that end up chipping away at their self-esteem. Turns out nobody wants to hear, you don't apply yourself. You're weak in character. You bring very little to the table, and yet you're very difficult to please. Huh? You like that, don't you? Huh? Coffee breath? No? See? Hard to please.
That was a thing too. I actually heard somebody recently, just to bookend that Me Too thing. Someone said that, like, you can't give consent anymore because with the Louis C.K. thing, an argument, not my argument, but an argument is, it's like, well, what he did was, gross and perverted, but in those situations, consent was given. He asked, there was a yes, but then people, but the argument is the position he was in forced an answer. So somebody moving past that, whatever our positions are in it, but the person that I was speaking to about it was saying, no, well, now you don't get consent from someone. You have to get enthusiastic consent.
Somebody said that, or that was
this was a conversation between me and someone else.
Right.
This was not like someone was on record where they could get whatever. But I thought that was very interesting just as a concept, because now consent, right? It used to be get consent.
Yeah.
Now consent, there's arguments being made for consent given under what, blah, blah, blah. So I just thought it was funny that a thing that's been the term, at least for one person's position, is, if you're going to do something, you have to get enthusiastic consent. So all I was saying was that you were trying to give the chair enthusiastic.
Oh, I see. That's where we came around to that. I see. That's what
sorry.
it was. That's okay. Because now we're on that. Because I was about to.
We don't have to. We can move past.
I was about to talk about that because I just thought to myself the idea of well, he got consent. I'm like, it says first the scenario. You wonder. I don't even want to get into it. You
can. Listen, my audience has heard a lot of different conversations about a lot of different things. And here's the thing too, though. This is like opening with this as a joke, because we haven't had a chance to talk about what a wonderful person you are and the bright-eyed young comic getting into stand-up however many years ago.
Really? That's what we're talking
about? We don't have to, but at least give them a chance.
Dim at this time.
Yeah. They'll give you a chance to fucking fall in love with you first. And then we're like, here, let me talk about fucking CK jerking off.
Right.
I brought it up because they've already heard me talk about everything under the sun. We can go back to it if you would rather, or just know that my audience is not one that are like, they tune in and they go, oh, these people, everything they say is super serious. Some, they like the thought-provoking stuff. Some of you don't. Some of you are stupid. I'm stupid.
I don't care. We'll do whatever.
Okay. Well, why don't I give them a little bit of context about you? Is you currently live in Los Angeles. And I may as well plug at this point that Alex, this episode is coming out on Friday morning. Alex is here at Absolute Comedy in Ottawa for the rest of the weekend. So if you do hear this and you're like, oh my God, this guy sounds hilarious, you can see him. You have opportunity to see him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. So go to absolutecomedy.ca, get your tickets. If you happen to be listening to this months later, well, look and see where you can find Alex Nussbaum and go see him. He's a super funny guy.
My girlfriend just started to pass gas in front of me, so looks like we're exclusive. Huh? Right? I hope. I hope she's not fighting with anyone else. For the sake of everyone involved. So I'll do it occasionally too. I got a kind of a nice muted trumpet sound going on. A little smooth jazz. I'm just saying, I'm thinking of starting a jazz ensemble, putting out an album, silent but medleys. But medleys. There's 2 jokes in there.
There you go. There's a little
That's good.
ask history for
There's
you.
also-
I would say go see him, guys. I was excited to see that Alex was in town, and I was excited to sit down and chat with him. Who knows what we're going to talk about, but it could be how you get someone's enthusiastic consent to watch you jerk off like you would want that.
Yeah.
Usually if someone was there, if I'm consent seeking, it's usually for participation, not for, hey, do you want to watch this?
Right.
Because that's weird. I'm jerking off because all else failed. You know?
Yeah.
All else? That's interesting.
I'm letting you.
I'm like, yeah, let me sell me the rope to hang myself. I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's just interesting. That's weird to me. I jerking off to me is fun yet shameful. It's like eating. To me, it's like eating an entire pizza. It feels good at the time, and then when it's over, you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
What am I doing?
At the end, yeah. That feeling, that feeling after the.
I could have done so much more with my
finished.
time, my money. Now I have to undo what I did in terms of, the feelings. Anyways.
Didn't we just a second ago say that we were not going to open with this?
Yeah. Well, we are.
That's why I'm just like. That's why I'm not letting you just talk at this point, because
life's not a PVR, man. It's okay. Listen, you are a Canadian comic. You started here in Canada.
That's right.
Why did you start doing stand-up comedy?
I have difficulty mustering passion for just about anything, and making people laugh seemed to be one of the things that was more fun than other things. And I was doing improv for fun. I discovered that I was pretty funny at it in high school, and I always liked stand up, but it took me a while to start. I didn't start that until I was like in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And I just found I was good enough at it, and it was creative and fun, and that was kind of what I was looking to do. And there's nothing else that I really wanted to do. I mean, I was academically pretty good, but I didn't want to pursue it beyond just getting some decent grades and then moving on with my life.
What were you doing? Like, did you have obviously if you're mid-20s, you got a day job or you've got some sort of, what were you doing at the time? And do you remember like your first set?
I remember, kind of that first amateur night kind of set. I did pretty well. I was already confident enough on stage because I was already doing improv for a while.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like shaking up there. I was kind of a bit of a ham. It was like a good scenario, like a good room with some people that knew me, coming to support. So it wasn't like I didn't have like some kind of typical like, ooh, amateur night bomb or whatever the first time.
So you did have the for lack of a better term, like what we call sometimes here, at least here in Ottawa, was the safety blanket or the birthday party where like everyone comes to see you.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were doing for like a living at the time?
For sure. I was that was like I just started working in animation.
Oh, very cool.
That was what I ended up doing after university. I didn't know what to do, and then I got into animation. I thought I was going to get into computer animation, and then I just ended up taking some classical animation, and then I started to work at Nelvana Animation, which does a lot of
polar bear.
That's right. Yes, they do a lot of like TV animation, and that was like my day job for a bunch of years when I started out.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the shows that you worked on?
I know. Yeah, it was like mid to late 90s.
Okay.
It was things like really young kid stuff, like Franklin the Turtle and Little Bear and stuff like that. Things like the Ace Ventura cartoon.
I remember that.
Some stuff like there was like a CBC show called Bob and Margaret.
Okay.
Or but probably the one that people know the most and I get the most reaction from because it was part of their childhood.
You've saved it for last, naturally.
Yes.
The Showman. What is it?
Magic School Bus.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I never watched it. I
But
never watched
but people, I guess, of a certain age, they were
Right,
like,
of
it was
course.
like, you know, it was like saying I was on Sesame Street or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
I guess.
it. I was the guy who was in Snuffleupagus'
Mm-hmm.
costume.
So yeah, yes, I wasn't in kind of like that. Yeah.
That's super cool though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a job. Like, it's the funny thing is it's an interesting sounding job, but inevitably you're just drawing every day, kind of like bit of a assembly line scenario. So it's one of those things that sounds cooler, but then a job always becomes a job.
Right.
By the way, I'm going to be a lot like this throughout this whole interview.
That's
I think
fine.
just demystifying and just spoiling the fun of everything. But yeah, because I mean, I even worked with people who were passionate about drawing. Like, I wasn't that. I could draw, and it was like, oh, I guess I'll get a creative job to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, it's not that creative. And then people I worked with who were passionate about drawing, I watched that passion just leak out of their body over years.
Because there's like, this is my understanding, is Ottawa actually has a huge animation community.
Yeah, they have like a festival here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's like an animation festival.
Very maybe there is. I just know there's a lot of animation companies here.
Yeah.
I know that back in those days, that was even before the 90s. So like in the 80s, the Raccoons, that show,
Yeah.
that was animated here.
Okay.
But there's a lot of big like US shows and Netflix shows that are actually animated here in Ottawa as well. Like, for example, we were talking about Burr's show, F is for Family.
Yeah.
That's animated here
Oh, cool.
at Big Jump in Ottawa.
Interesting.
And there's other things. The Brickleberry show was animated here, a bunch of stuff. But one of the things that I've talked to, because I have some friends that work for those companies, and they've said like how, I don't even remember the terminology. You probably be able to help me with it, but it's like something how like not on concept or whatever, but like somebody will get hired to work on a show, and they go, here's the character that we need you to animate or whatever. And every time like you draw it, like they basically, look at it versus the original and decide whether or not it's close enough to the concept or the structure or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
So like I could see that someone would be like, oh, I just want to draw and create something. It's like, no, you just keep drawing this and draw this every day 400 times or whatever.
Yeah,
the
I
fuck
mean,
it is.
it's pretty much it's kind of like sitcom writing, where what you're supposed to do is make it as what's the word? Not assimilate, but to have the style be as close to the style of the show.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I say sitcom writing because it's like sitcom writing. The characters have to sound like those characters. You're not writing out of nowhere. It's
Yeah.
you're following a specific mold.
Yeah.
and
then
yeah,
someone
so,
goes, oh, they would never say that.
yeah. So you need same thing with drawing for an animated show. Obviously, the characters have to look like the characters, and so
Yeah.
once it's all designed, and that's kind of by the time I came in, then you're just drawing them in different scenarios, different costumes, different props. Maybe you draw a different background, or
Yeah.
that's pretty much all it was. Was like maybe you could draw a new character if it was like a guest character. So that's but you're drawing it in the style of the show. So just a lot of I almost had the word.
Repetition.
No, it's like where you're. It's a simple word. It's like when you're trying to become like something else. It starts with a C. But anyway,
Assimilate was
no,
close.
that wasn't that. No.
Well, it's a good word though, because that's exactly what happens. Replicate is another one.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Just people listening, they're like,
Well, no,
maybe-
let's make this, dude. One of the things that people like, or at least I've been told they like about the podcast, is the fact that everything is just done as is. So assimilate is, you're saying it'd be a C word very similar to it?
something like that.
Okay.
It's, conform.
There
I knew
you
I'd
go.
Get, I knew I'd get it.
Yeah, as soon
I
as
knew
I
I'd
picked
get it
up the
before
phone.
you got it because that's.
Oh, because you're smarter than me, you fucking.
Conform.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And the thing is, there's no creativity in that, or at least no fulfilling creativity, because you're not creating, you're
That's it.
conforming
That's the
day
thing.
after day after day. So it's like, it's funny because I always laugh when they call people at Subway sandwich artists. It's like, oh, I'm a sandwich artist. I'm creating a sandwich. Like they literally have rules. I hate using that word literally, but this, it's proper here. They do have literal rules of how many pickles, how many cucumbers, how many slices of tomatoes go on every 6-inch. So it's like the whole thing of being an artist is that you have the freedom to create. It's like, whereas they have no freedom to create. It's like, do it exactly like this. There's no artistry involved whatsoever.
I don't think anyone really takes that word seriously in that scenario.
It was the
I
best
think
name
that
tag I ever
context-
wore. No, I've never heard that.
I don't think anybody's saying like, Well, that's just as ludicrous. They are by no stretch of the imagination an artist. I don't think anybody's really.
You've never heard my audience.
And if
speak down
anything,
here.
if anything, I would call them craftsmen.
Craftsman. Well, there you go. But that was, to be honest with you, I get asked occasionally because we talked about it earlier. I was saying how I worked in the trades when I was younger. From like 18 to 23, I was doing my electrical apprenticeship. And people asked me why I stopped as soon as I got my license. I was like, because I hated it. There was nothing fulfilling about it. People are like, oh, you can make so much money. It's like, yeah, someday when you own a company and you've put in everything, then yeah, you can charge what the rate is. But with that rate, you're also paying the guys under you and everything like that. Like it's not incredible. You really do have to have one of the biggest, businesses in the city and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I'm like, but for me to stay fulfilled in my goals in life, to get to that point where I'm happy that I did all this, I'm like, you're just doing day after day, that's the same conform. Like there's codes for electrical. So there's no like, well, let me be creative with this. You have to run everything where it goes. And then when it's all done, some fucking troglodyte comes in, slaps drywall over it. And then you may have made something work around a fireplace or whatever, to code and everything. Like, we had no idea how we were going to do that. And no one will ever know the work involved behind it. Like, it's just, so to me,
You want recognition for your work.
not recognition, personal fulfillment. Maybe, and you know what? Maybe it is that there's some sort of recognition involved. But the idea is I wanted to be creative.
Well, I
I've
know
always-
that I started doing stand-up because I wanted people to know that these were my ideas. I didn't want to be a writer. I wanted to be a stand-up.
I personally, I don't care about that. I just want to know that something that this is what I wanted. I didn't want my existence not to matter because I was like, if I come in and do some job that I know if I stop doing today, someone else will be doing it in a week and I never mattered. Then there's no fulfillment in me. Why exist if you're not going to contribute something? So for me,
but you are contributing because you say somebody else could do it, but you are doing it.
I'd rather let someone else do
You
it.
might be replaceable, but it doesn't mean that what you're doing still is fulfilling a function. What you're having an issue with is being recognized as an individual, which is much more of a Western ideal. In Eastern societies, being a cog in the machine is actually quite
right. Well, we're all part of one Eastern.
That's all
wise.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. To hurt your enemy is to hurt yourself. I'm familiar with a lot of Eastern ones, and I've gotten better at it. But at the time, I was like, I just didn't like being easily replaceable.
Right.
Right. Everyone wants to. I mean, I would assume everybody wants to matter because that's one thing that millennials struggle with is they want to make an impact. How am I going to make an impact? I don't care about making an impact. And even the recognition isn't so much, but the idea that I like that something exists because of me. So even if I'm building something with wood, I build a shelf or whatever, like, cool, I came up with the designs and I built it and here it is because of me. There's something left.
Right.
Whereas even though there's things behind the walls and now there's power, I never really liked that. So I'm trying to figure out why the fuck I started telling this story in the first place. But, the conformity.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't like about it. It was that this one job, there's only one way that everything is coded and it's checked and it has to be this way. There's no room for any creativity. Even contractors can take a little take. How are we going to build this and make this look good? They have options of manipulating things and building things and suggesting and engineering things that you get to see when it's all done.
Right.
And that's their work and that's their contribution to it. They do have some creative liberties. Right. For me, I was just like, no, I'm not fulfilled by this at all. And it has to only be done a certain way.
Yeah.
What a horribly long bullshit story to just say, I can understand your, in something, but I guess maybe at least with my thing, it wasn't something that you would have a preconceived notion that it's creative. Whereas you say, I'm in animation, people go, oh my God, you're drawing, you're being creative. And like you said, and before you know it, you're like, no, I'm just doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds nice. And there's something to that, something that sounds interesting, or being able to say that I worked on something that people was part of their lives and they're excited about.
Right.
That has some currency that I can use kind of in this industry that I'm in. I can sort of say, oh, and they're like, oh, wow, that makes me sound more interesting.
Right.
They don't have to know unless I tell them, which I just did, that
We're usually the first ones to be like, no, and they're like, really? And you go, well, not really.
Right, yeah.
How funny is that? People get excited for stuff. We're like, listen, let me just take all that.
well, yeah, it's kind of like we don't want them to. It's like, yeah, let me look. I know I'm going to spoil some stuff for you, but I think it's for your own good because I'm jaded and I feel like you should be too. I don't know. I feel like we can't help ourselves. I think that's a nature though of like is take the piss out of something, right?
Right.
It's like you don't want any because
Defense mechanism.
Well, not only that, but it's also not wanting bullshit to prevail. So I don't. So by you thinking this is great,
Right.
it's like a part of the bullshit detector of a stand-up won't let that just go. It's sort of like, oh no, it's not great. Let me show you how it's not great. And then take pleasure in watching what they value be devalued in front of their very eyes.
Okay. So luckily you cast off the conformist job and found the joys and of course the easy streets of stand-up.
Wow, I think
That's
that laugh
okay.
popped the. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I've got a filtration system online that does the work.
Well, you certainly don't have it with this water because I'll tell you, it is not tasty out of the. I felt like using the filtration system thing. It's not actually true. The water's fine. The water's fine.
I was going to say you're the one who wanted tap water.
Yeah. Well, it actually came out of the fridge, so there could be.
Yeah, there's a filter there. I want you to live a little bit longer. You want to drink the chlorine.
Thanks.
So you started doing stand-up. How long were you doing stand-up before? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No. I usually
Alex was
love
the
these.
first guest. Yeah, exactly. Alex was the first guest I ever had that I'm like, well, I usually like to talk about people and how they started. He's like, fuck, I don't want to. I guess can't we just shoot the shit?
Well,
we're gonna. God damn it, that's all we've been doing. So
Yeah, it's just that I'm afraid, and I've already I think said some of this of my background talking about animation. I'm just afraid if anybody would ever choose to go, let's see, I'd like to hear him on a couple of different podcasts. Oh, yes. This again.
this again.
This again.
Well, I try not to go down the same avenues. Obviously, the first time you started, whatever, that gets out of the way. They know that you were doing a regular job. You were chasing. Was it a dream? You said you wanted to do computer animation. And if you're doing it in the 90s, that's kind of like when Pixar started to come out and whatnot.
Yeah.
That was like groundbreaking when those things were coming out.
I mean, I was sort of like, I think it was around the time that Jurassic Park came out. So that was kind of like,
that was 94, right?
That was like a big, like that's,
and that's computer. That's like Roger Rabbit, only it's not a cartoon.
Yeah, I started in like 92 or 3, something like that. So that's when I started school. And so, it was like that was the hot new thing.
Yeah. And that was computer images right in, real life film.
That's right, yeah.
Like I remember in the early 80s when Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, it was like groundbreaking to have animated stuff,
That's right.
In a feature film. It was huge. And then now there's shit that looks real on a regular one. Nothing looks fake.
Yes, the marriage of live action and animation.
Thank you for abbreviating that for me. I like that you're the one of the guests who's comfortable just staring at me while I flounder looking for my terminology. So you did that. Now you started the stand-up comedy. Was it long for you? Here's what my audience has told me they like. All right. And I'm speaking for you guys right now. It's not so much about like, so tell me the story. Like we don't want to fill in the blanks. What they like to hear is maybe where they're sitting or what they're doing right now, they're not happy with. And they want to know that because where you are right now, like we can jump to it, dude, you've got great comedy albums out. You've got, you've done the festivals. You're living in Los Angeles. You're performing on some of the biggest stages, and you're where a lot of people, even myself, would love to be in your career. So sometimes people look at that and they go, "Holy shit! Like, well, I could never achieve that, or I could never do that. Like, it's unobtainable."
Yeah.
So sometimes just we start off with the whole, "Hey, I was where you are." And then they get to hear, I don't typically like to go like, and you've achieved this. How great was that? And you've achieved, I don't care. I mean, it's great to recognize the achievements, but what some of the people like to hear is like you said, is like listen, it's not as great as it seems. And it wasn't as easy as it seems. And sometimes you have moments of crippling doubt. That's the stuff that they want to hear. The stuff that doesn't sound good in a soundbite on Sirius XM or whatever. They're like, oh, don't kill yourself.
Right. Yeah, I was just gonna. When you sort of started listing off, I've done this and I've done that, and I live in LA and all that sort of thing. I kind of wanted to jump in at the end and say, and yet still there's an emptiness and a yearning. But
that's the thing, right? Is like we're not like it's like there's. I that's one of the things that I like about the guys that I choose to talk with is that they're still very, grounded and whatnot. And I find that some of the people who are, at least my favorite is not only to watch their stand up, but just to have conversation with the ones who are, they're realistic. They're a real person. Mm-hmm. They're willing to sit down and waste an afternoon talking about themselves.
A whole afternoon. I have some. Gotta go over my bits for tonight.
Breakups are hard. I just find whenever I've broken up, my ex finds someone else way sooner than me. I resent it. I feel like you don't respect the relationship enough to wait like a good 2 or 3 years like I do. Makeup sex is good though, huh? That's Probably the best make-up sex. Oh, yeah, sure, any chance I get. Just the other night, I made up sex with Sofia Vergara. I made it up! I switched it around. I made a little joke. Whatever, have fun. Have a little fun. I'm making up sex with many of you right now, so there's a lot of love in the room. I found out that I was above the average age of my first sexual intercourse experience. That's one of those situations where you don't want to be above average. Friend said, hey, it's good that you waited. I didn't choose to wait. There's a difference between waiting for the right time to have a nice piece of pie and no pie. No pie.
Yeah, you're working on a new album this week, right?
Yeah.
What album is this for you?
That's number 3.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Don't ever praise. If you ever meet Alex at a show, don't praise him.
No, that's not true. I want to hear the praise. I just wanted to remove it.
You just want to remove it. You want to, they giveth, Alex taketh away.
I need it. It's just that I also am realistic about it. I'm recording this album because of the nature of content creation in our time.
Go on.
Pretty much, I get it pays my bills, so I got to make another one.
Gotcha.
So I'm kind of like pumping out another one. I haven't been doing stand up like as often or consistently, so I haven't. I think I said consistently. There you go. Like I've got like a bunch of stuff that's well honed and all that sort of thing, and then I got some stuff that I'm sort of like working on. Like last several months, I've been working on, and even this week, I'm gonna probably toss in a few. So I think so I'll have enough probably for an album by the end of the week. And then it's like the third one. I mean, what's funny is that how the industry will motivate behavior. So I mean, the idea of a comedy album wasn't really a thing for probably a couple of decades. Mm-hmm. It seems to me it was something that, you heard about in the 60s and the 70s and then then 80s.
And that was kind of the only way to get it out, was to put it somewhere where people could buy it.
Yeah. It was kind of the...
Now there's networks devoted to
I think that was part of it too, is like you didn't have video comedy specials, right? In the 60s and 70s. So if you wanted people to hear like a full set, you'd have to do an album, right? And then the 80s and 90s is where you started to get like, HBO specials and all that, like for the big comics and stuff.
Evening at the Improv.
Yeah, there was on TV and all that. So there was TV was where the comedy boom took it. And so nobody made albums. I mean, it was silly. Then CDs came around, and then you can make your own CD, and it wasn't that expensive to and so then comics started making CDs to sell after shows. Right. And then
they started putting slogans on shot glasses and T-shirts. And
whatever they could do.
These little fucking tuck shops would open up at the back.
Tuck shop. That's funny.
There was one guy who came to the club who opened up like a suitcase, and he had, no word of a lie, 15 to 20 different things for sale. Everything from shot glasses to bobbleheads. And it was like...
It's like you're the Willy Loman of stand-up comedy. Like
I don't even know that reference.
It's
Who's that?
Death of a Salesman. It's,
okay.
It's just the idea of like being a door-to-door merch salesman for stand-up merch.
He was selling filter queens. Just had his face on it. Hey. But
because I was sort of thinking about this. Like, it's so funny that now it's like, oh yeah, I'm working my album. Like that's just a thing comics just say now,
right?
Or a special or whatever. It's like just
working my hour or whatever.
So it's like it's a thing that this content creation that didn't exist in the same way before, and so that's why we were talking about this earlier today. That's why someone like Seinfeld, his era, he would just have his act and they'd tour with an act. This is almost like a vaudevillian thing. You could have like an act for 20 years and tour with it. And then radio came along and then they couldn't do that anymore because once you did it on the radio,
everyone's heard it and they come to see you. Yeah. We
need new material. So it depends on like, what era you're in. And so now it's all about creating content and always like, it's just a voracious beast of, wanting more and more content.
Well, speaking of creating content, we alluded to this earlier, never had a chance to it. They massacred our pizza today. That was them trying to take creative liberties. That they should have been sandwich artists today in terms of their.
Yeah, it was interesting. They didn't quite. I feel like there was a lot of communication problems between the waitress and
us
and
and
us,
the chef,
and then the chef,
quote unquote.
And then
because I was asking Alex if he was good with Hawaiian. And Alex was saying, yeah, I like that. But he also, I was saying, because I'm not big on, on vegetables on pizza. I don't mind vegetables. I don't like them on pizza for some reason. I also don't like fungus. And Alex was like, well, I was thinking like combination or maybe, Canadian, which both have mushrooms and one of them has peppers. So what happened was in the discussion, we said, well, why don't we do half and half or this and that? And it ended up being that I asked the waitress, I said, okay, do half Hawaiian and then do half combination. And I forgot combination. My brain was still stuck on Canadian. So I'm thinking, oh, Canadian, pepperoni, bacon, mushrooms. I said to her, I go, if you could do half and half, I go, do you mind asking the chef to, did I call him chef? I think I call him cook.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't call a pizza guy a chef.
Okay.
Just because I look down my nose at the help.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I said, just ask him if he can maybe keep a little bit of the, maybe a slice of the Canadian, and again, in my head, the combination without mushrooms. And then when Alex was like, oh, it has green peppers too, right? I'm like, oh, fuck. She was already gone at this point. And I was like, oh, fuck it. Well, it doesn't matter. And he goes, well, I was only going to eat this half anyways, Again, communication, we turned a very simple process into a very big discussion. We even discussed drafting out the rules of our amnesty and whatnot. But then she comes back to the table and goes, oh, I was just talking to the chef and he said that, he might not be able to guarantee that the mushrooms don't end up on all of the side of that. And I go, you know what? No, honestly, just tell him to make the half combination, no problem. And it's funny because now in retrospect, when they brought the pizza to us, like you would think, okay, it's half and half. Maybe cut that line right down the half where the half meets. Yeah, they didn't. They just cut it wherever the fuck they want. There was two slices.
He didn't.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't guarantee that the mushrooms won't end up on all." They were all over the fucking place. There was mushrooms in every slice of the Hawaiian that I ate today. Yeah. So the mushrooms ended up all over that pizza.
There was also the thing where she was telling us about her car accident, and slowest
cutting of pizza,
right? While dispensing the wrong slice to you. I got my combination slice, but then you got also one of the combination slices.
And I was like, yeah, that's not necessary at all.
And you just waited for her to finish. You didn't protest.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt bad. The whole time she's telling us a sob story about how, and again, I don't have a problem. I get stuck talking to old ladies in return lines. Like I can facilitate a story I don't give a shit about, as you've been doing many times in this podcast.
Well, this is what your audience. This is what they want to hear.
Yeah. Anyway, she's telling us about how she got into a car accident and she's so sorry that she was on her phone. It's not like we were calling her over. We never were like, excuse me, can we get I'm so like she just shared this story with us. And then she proceeded to tell us which car in the parking lot was hers, pointing it out. And I guarantee if I had asked for like a driver's license or birth certificate, personal information, she seemed willing to give it.
Well, I think she just wanted to make conversation because she probably thought we were kind of cool. And here you are, making her look like she was a bad person.
Shall I tell them what you said to her?
Wanting to be friends. Yeah, you could do that.
You have nothing productive in your life at the moment. Go do something of value. Pack my food. No,
that was because she was giving me a look because I wanted to walk away with a slice and a half because I didn't feel like eating it. She said she could eat the whole pizza on her own, so she's already putting me in a position where I've got to get my guns out.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, well, if this is what we're doing, if you want to be an adversary, then here we are. And so then
you're getting heated, goddammit.
Yeah, and then she got an earful from here. I'll tell you. So I'll tell you, she got the what for. I did
funny.
Say something about,
and then she just looks at you and goes, "You're funny." That's it. You're funny.
Yeah. Well, after I said something about being a viable member of the community because she's packing my pizza, that's when she went, "You're funny." with
it was like very low energy,
with very little emotion behind it.
Yeah, you're funny.
Yeah, but she meant it, and she did giggle when she was walking away.
Yeah.
So definitely big score there.
Yeah, keep the streak of making people laugh every day going. So you can phone it in tonight. You did your part today.
Yeah, and they will. You know what? And I think that the comment cards will reflect the phoning in that you discussed.
We should do that too. every now and again, I should just grab comment cards. Last time you were in town, here's what the guest to
That's not
say.
a bad idea.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no organization there, and I'm not willing to go through piles upon piles looking for the last visit. But all right, so you started, and you were in Toronto when you started.
Sorry, I had to get that out.
I know that. I'm gonna still power through. God damn it.
Yes, I was. I started in Toronto.
Was it long for you before you start getting paid work?
Yeah, I mean, I was mostly just doing like a couple clubs in Toronto, like one club in particular.
You can name them if you.
No, I
want.
was going to say it sort of doesn't exist anymore, but it was a good club called the Laugh Resort, and it was good. It was started up by guys who left the other, organization, a comedy across Canada organization. They had, because they were fed up, and so they started this club. So it was like started by a bunch of comics who were really good comics, like Tim Steves and Brent Butt, and just like a bunch of guys from that era. And so I sort of was like kind of this next generation coming in and just starting to do amateur and worked my way up to headlining. And so after about a couple years, I think it was about 2 years in, they had one of these like competition.
For headliners?
No, for like, amateur.
Okay.
So it was like it was called Funniest Person with a Day Job.
Okay. I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, so I won 1 year. Like I won the second year I was doing stand up for, so I was doing stand up for about 2 years, and that meant I started to get like weekend spots as an open air, pro spot. So that's where you get thrown a couple bucks,
Right, of course.
And then working my way towards like co-featuring and then featuring.
Do you remember how long it was before, like, not that it's super important time-wise, but just like how long before you were headlining? And at this point, had you traveled to other clubs and cities to do featuring?
It wasn't that long for that club, like maybe 3 or 4 years, something like that. It was mostly just kind of doing that club, and then I'd kind of maybe do a club in Montreal, or like I wasn't really doing cross Canada.
Right.
There wasn't really. I mean, I didn't venture that much. I wasn't really thinking about like being a touring comic, so I guess I wasn't really hungry for it in that way. And there's a sense too, like I feel like if you're not part of an organization, it's like you gotta have that sense of like trying to look like, how do I do this? And I didn't have that built in, and it's not like now where you could just search something on the internet and find out what guys do and how to really try to follow their footsteps. And then eventually I toured across Canada with the other organization.
Yuck yucks.
I guess that was it.
Yeah, they're like, it's like you say it and then spit. Wollerton.
Yeah. I mean, it's Canada is not a big, it's not a big industry. So you unfortunately you don't have enough competition to like have different options. There's like a handful of independent clubs in the major cities, and then
and traveling eats up the bulk of what you make.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go travel and do a week somewhere, it's like, okay, well,
you're just doing
by the
it
time
for the
I've
experience.
paid,
you're not really doing it. You're not doing it to make a living. You're doing it to kind of get it under your belt.
Well, I remember when I was new and like I could travel to different cities and do a week of like featuring or middling, whatever it is, sometimes even hosting, and it doesn't, when I was new, it'd be like, oh, you'll get $200 to go host. And I'm like, I'm like, that basically pays the travel. So I'll break even. When you're new to stand up, the idea that, you wouldn't be losing money to go do something and you get your foot in the door, you're like, oh, that's great. Yeah. But then, now it's like, well, you'll go and do a week of shows and break even. I'm like, oh, that's great. I could sit on the couch all week and break even. Yeah. But I need to be generating income to pay the bills and stuff.
I mean, you're doing it pretty much for the stage time, for the experience and all that sort of thing. And that's why that's why people go to the States, because although I mean I haven't really toured in the States, I kind of went to the States mostly just to be in the center of where the entertainment is.
Right.
And my intention was never to be a touring comic anyway. It was always like comedy was kind of like one of the things I want to do in comedy, because I started in improv, and I never thought of like just like there's people I think who just start doing stand up and that's what they do.
Right.
Like I always thought like, well, I want to be involved in, I want to be on TV and film and write and act and whatever you can do to be funny. So I didn't miss the idea of not being a road dog and all that sort of thing,
right?
Or really pursue like how can I get into as many clubs as possible. I was like, I just want to be funny enough that when I do things and I showcase that maybe it might lead to other opportunities.
Right.
Missionary position gets a bad rap though, huh? People are like, it's boring. Boring? What are you talking about? Sex is happening. Quit your complaining. What, do you like doggy style better? I don't trust doggy style. I don't know what's happening under there. She could be like sending out emails. I don't know what she's doing. She could be assembling a pistol. I don't know what side project you got going on, but I want your eyes facing front and your hands where I can see them. I'm running a Black Ops mission here. I could use a little backup. Yeah.
How like now is this your second time living in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Okay, so were you in terms of Canada? Did you live in different parts of Canada, or you were Toronto? No. What? This is the part. This is incredibly fascinating to me. Is what sort of? I mean, I guess you did sort of just gloss over. Like, I wanted to be around where things were happening, but like to me, the idea, even for me to get from Ottawa to Toronto, like to move, I'm intimidated by it in the sense that I feel like I need to have a plan once I get there, because as much as go there and get on stage and just work on material, I feel like it's going like, well, okay, let's just go ahead and increase my living expenses to go and maybe, get more material. But what if I have more material, what do I do with that?
Yeah. Well, what do you want?
Well, and I guess that's kind of the thing right now. Like, I'm not one of those guys who necessarily is like, oh, I want to be on TV and movies. I'm not against it, but that's not my goal.
I'm against it. I don't want to see you on TV.
That's fair. That's fair. You have prescription lenses on. You see what I look like. That's. I don't. Let's put it this way. I don't belong there right now in the current state of things.
That's not true.
But I just mean that. I don't want to be the fucking the Jonah Hill. I'm like, hey, let's have him be the fat guy that the girl fucks when she was drunk. You know what I mean? Like, I could play that.
So
role.
you don't want to be the guy who has a career.
Oh, for fuck's sakes! I'm just saying I don't want the career to be based on the fact that I was the ugly fat guy who could deliver a funny line. I don't want to be typecast.
I understand that.
That's what I don't want.
Well, the trouble with that is, I think actually is that then you're that, if that's what you're known for and you make your bones that way, then you will be stuck where you want to get healthy or something, and then you can't, because then you're now
you don't get roles.
Now you're a different guy, and we're not looking for that guy.
Well, they had all sorts of articles when Jonah Hill lost a lot of weight. There was articles being written like, "Is Jonah Hill not funny now that he's not fat?" And it's like. I go, what an asinine question, because humor has nothing to do with your body type. So just the question in and of itself is like, it's just like but it is harder to laugh at someone if they don't look as laughable.
Well, you just said,
that's what you.
I was going to say, you just contradicted yourself.
No, but I'm saying like, if they've preconceived it, like, oh,
no, but
okay, so maybe,
but
you're right.
Humor is visual. I mean, the fact is that they're funny looking people. If somebody is model good looking,
right,
it is more difficult. They have to approach it differently. They can't. The comedy that comes out of them is not the same kind of comedy that can come out of somebody who is affably kind of goofy looking.
Right,
or
but a
whatever.
Mitch Hedberg one-liner isn't less funny.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of comedy.
Right.
But I'm just saying that, like, but there is a place for that, and there's also a place for funny looking people.
Sure. Well, if your jokes are about how funny you look, well, now it's in context.
But it's if it's a character. Part of what makes that character funny is the way they move, the way they look, the way they...
I fully understand. I don't disagree with that. But I guess I just mean that, like, if you're like, is he not funny now that he's not fat? It's like, well, now he can just tailor the humor some other way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like, oh, well, I guess he can't be an actor anymore because he's not fat.
But there are cases like I've heard of, like, let's say someone talking about a comic who lost a lot of weight, and they're like yeah, now it's just kind of, before it was kind of a jolly, he was like a jolly drinking guy, and now he just looks like he's dying or something, because he doesn't look as healthy either. It's not just that he's thin, but he just looks kind of that kind of.
Well, there is a happy fat guy kind of, jolly Santa. Look
course,
how happy and jolly he looks. So you could definitely be visual, like, again, look less funny, I guess the way I took that is, is he less funny now that he's not fat? It's like, I guess if what you were laughing at before was his size.
Well, I mean, it's just the presentation. I mean, we're delivering. Casting is a thing.
Yes, of course.
So if you're presenting a certain kind of character and you're saying certain things through that character, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about that. It doesn't have to be about you being fat, but it definitely will make you. It's going to come out of a model, differently.
Of course.
I mean...
It's also hard to laugh at, we talked about this the other night, about someone who's on stage who's beautiful and gorgeous, and they're talking about how, male or female, and they're talking about how, it sucks dating, it's hard to find. It's like, you look at that and go, oh, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really, you're telling me that you, gorgeous, is having a difficult time finding it's gonna be hard to laugh at that versus a guy who looks like me walks on stage and goes, guys, I can't catch a break.
I think that what I realized was that comedy kind of comes from a lack of control, and that there's some controlled comics, but I'm just saying like in general, this idea of I don't have the control that you have in your life, and therefore this is why I'm kind of funny, because I don't have that control. The moment if you look like somebody who's got your shit together,
right? If
you're like you got a nice head of hair, you're fit, you know what I mean, you got your ducks in a row. Like, where's the comedy gonna come from?
Right.
It's kind of hard to figure out where that's gonna come from. Even anger, like if it's an angry comic, that's a lack of control. That's why you're angry, because you don't have control.
Right.
So losing weight is a sense of control. You're controlling your body. Yeah. You're now in control of a body you couldn't control before.
Yeah, your eating was out of control.
Right. So that's going to contribute to how funny something is.
So here I have been the last year or two trying to get my life under control, and what you're suggesting is, in order for me to
the irony of it, right? The irony of it.
It's like, so basically, the more I get my shit together, the less funny I'm going to be. No wonder I have been so uncreative the last few years.
I feel that way sometimes about myself. I feel like I'm finally kind of at a point where I can kind of take some control of my life.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I ate all my pizza.
And now I don't feel like doing comedy anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad I ate all my pizza today.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't have a woman tell me to man up at the time.
I can be that woman for you.
Thank you. Anyways, that's always been my fears. Like, you know what? Maybe I would love to be in movies and stuff, but I don't want that to be the ultimate goal. Like I said, I worry about the typecasting thing.
Yeah.
So
so we know what you don't want.
Right. I still don't know what
you got to figure that. You got to figure that out.
Of course, and that's why I'm not ready to take the next step and not know where that foot's supposed to land.
And that's why you're not ready, because you don't know what you want.
Yeah, but some people also don't know, and they're just like, yeah, but you just got it's part of it. I go, you're trying to follow a direction and you don't know where you're trying to get to.
There might be something to that, in the sense of, like, if you don't know what, and then it's not until you throw yourself into it that you start to get a look at everything and go, okay, that's the direction for me. So sometimes it could be that just by sheer force of having to stay afloat. And that's the other thing too, is like, if you do sort of feel that way, you don't want to wait to figure it out if that's not happening.
Right.
Like, if you're saying, I'm not sure yet, and then like 3 years go by and you're still not sure yet, well, yeah, maybe you should move just to see what happens.
Well, that's where I'm at now. Now I'm like, okay, I need to go somewhere where things are happening more to make something. I know I'm not happy here.
I mean, the other thing too is if you just, have that general goal of, I want to be a better comic,
right?
Then you will get better by being surrounded by people who raise the bar,
right?
And that the competition will maybe push you. Sometimes it's not great in the sense that you might not get as much stage time. So now we're talking about,
but you're making the most of it because you respect things, scarcity and abundance.
Yeah.
Right. If you have an abundance of stage time and you can get it whenever you want, and you can fuck around with it, and it doesn't force you to be better. But if you have to make the most of what you get, that's gonna make you strive to do better with it.
Yeah.
So what I was getting at is, I find it admirable, because you're in a position where you're like, I'm gonna go take on one of the most difficult markets, or at least competitive. Right? So you're in Toronto. What was that process? Like, when did you first move to Los Angeles?
Oh, it was a while after I started. And that was partly because I just didn't really have the wherewithal and the money to, I needed some way to go down there. I'm not the kind of guy to just go down and get a, waitering job under the table. I'm not built that way. Or I wasn't.
Could you just move there, or did you have to have the green card?
Well, there's a combination of things. So yeah, I needed the green or the work visa at that time. Which takes money. It costs, Do you mind if I ask?
I was
going to say, whether it's a green card or work visa, you're talking about at least $10,000 or something like that. So that's the investment. So
how long?
I had to make money to even consider doing something like that.
Right.
I was probably ready to go down there. Let's say 6 years in, 5, 6, 7 years, and that would have probably been not a bad time to go. But I didn't have the money. I didn't have anything. Right. I mean, I was starting to get enough credits. But that's the other thing too. You need to get press and credits and do enough stuff where you make connections with people who are in positions where they can write you letters to then contribute to this notion that you're an extraordinary.
What's that wording? I keep trying to tell them I've never had to.
Yeah, it's extraordinary ability.
in your class or whatever? Or?
Well, that's like that's sort of the way they describe like that. The sort of the talent is
The extraordinary ability.
Yeah, that's the O1 visa, and so you have to prove it on paper.
Right.
So it's like a lot of press and all that sort of thing. You can just quicker ways to do it maybe or whatever. I mean, I was telling you this before. It's like stand up is hard to get press for. If you're new at it, that's a bit of a story. If you're putting something out, maybe that's a bit of a story. But it's such an ongoing thing. It's like, what's the story?
Yeah.
So
like you said, you're doing a one-man show. So you're like, hey, come see this one-man show.
Yeah. Like when I was working on getting my green card, I was kind of stuck in Toronto. And so I did a Toronto Fringe. I did a one-man show, and that I was lucky. I got a lot of good press for that. And so then that's a story, because the show was about something that happened to be about technology. And so that's an interesting story rather than a guy telling jokes.
Right.
So that's another thing you have to think about if that's one of your goals, is like, how are you going to get press? What are you going to put out there that is interesting? Like whether it's, maybe you might write a book or something like that, or something that but if it's stand up, I mean, if that's what you're applying for, you have to also figure out what and then there's like, making connections down south and all that, and having somebody write something down. It's like, so it's just so much.
And you had that your first time going down?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of legwork involved kind of thing, but, for me, it was like, in Canada, I can only do so much. And my intention was always to go down south and do stuff down there anyway, because my sensibility doesn't always gel with Canada, because Canada can be geared towards a certain kind of comedy. In general, I feel like it tends to either be about small towns or political
It
comedy.
panders.
Yeah.
It panders.
Well, it's Toronto Jew is not a real big box to check for it's not like everybody across Canada is like, we want to hear more stories from the Toronto Jew. That's two things that they're not interested in necessarily, right? I mean, there might be some exception to that, whatever, but I'm just saying it's just not, and for me, it just wasn't my sensibility. Canadian comedy sensibility in general, like that's sort of across Canada, was never what I grew up thinking. I mean, yes, I grew up on SCTV and all that, but that was more making fun of American TV, right? It wasn't really, it was not that Canadian. And so, like, it's like, I'll have more of a connection to like a New York Jew or whatever,
Right.
So yeah, that's just the way it is. I mean, I even just saw on Facebook, like Jeremy Hotz, like just going off on a thing about how he can't get a show made in Canada.
Yeah.
And he was like thinking it was a maybe anti-Semitic thing too. And right. I mean, like, whatever that is, it is interesting though, the guy who has reached that level. In Canada. I mean, he's there are just not many comics in general who've in Canada who've reached the level where you can do a theater tour across Canada, and a lot of people, you've got a lot of fans.
Yeah.
And to not be able to translate that into a TV show, to be honest, is not. I mean, that's the thing, is where I say that's not new. That's not just Canada. America's the same way.
Right.
There are a lot of touring comics who are very popular touring comics. Like we mentioned, Brian Regan. Mm-hmm. He did not make his career based on a sitcom.
I'd say probably 10% of the people listening even know who Brian Regan is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. One of my favorites, but is a huge touring comic. Has his own tour buses and sells out theaters and everything like that.
But he's not a sitcom comic.
Right.
So there's that distinction too. So I mean, like, it's, I'm not just to be fair about it. There are a lot of reasons why or why not. But for me, I didn't even necessarily think of myself as a guy who's gonna like, you'd base a sitcom on my comedy. I don't have that kind of. For me, I was more like the silly neighbor kind of guy. Like, I'm kind of more. I always wanted to.
You're
be
the Canadian Kramer.
Kind of.
Well, it's without the racism.
Sadly,
that's actually the Canadian part.
Sadly, one of my first TV commercial gigs, they pretty much dressed me up as Kramer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sadly.
That
But
sucks.
you got to take what
we
you
just
could
wanted
get.
him, but couldn't get him. So
Kind
can
of
you
took
be
what
him?
I could get. Kind of took what I could get.
I was married once. It wasn't all bad. That's my review. She tried to do cute things like give me love coupons as a gift. Anybody ever get homemade sex vouchers to be cashed in for later sex? I did. And they never got redeemed. She neglected to include the stipulations like not valid when she doesn't feel like it. Customer may not redeem 2 or more coupons against the same item in a single transaction. Non-transferable to another relationship, apparently. No cash value. And definitely no Groupons, I found out.
Well, and the funny thing too is when you look at all these Canadian shows that they are making, you know, you look at it and you go, okay, well, the best show that you guys have had in God knows how long. I always say the last decade, and it wasn't. It's over a decade old now. Is Corner Gas, and they can't get anything else to stick, and they're like, let's do that again, but let's just make it a cartoon. Well, that's our big unveil. We got another great show coming.
But just in terms of what I'd previously said, that's an example of a classic Canadian show, right? It's not
the small town.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
It's the small town with kind of, you know, you got enough of the right kinds of faces there. Where there's that First Nations diversity just a little bit there, but a lot of very white people too, and it's got that nice quaint sensibility, and then, you know, there's you know, the latest I would call kind of successful sort of sitcom would be like Letterkenny.
Yep.
Right. So that's another sort of small town thing, or even like Trailer Park Boys. Like it's all kind of at a sort of working class area, small town. Like that's what Canada is comfortable with. Like that's most of how Canada sees themselves and wants to be represented. Yeah. And I don't come from that. I mean, I can't honestly deliver that. It's not even a matter of like me railing against it. It's just not me. Yeah. So
it's the same. I have an experience that I've lived I've lived my entire life in Ottawa, and only since I started Canada or doing stand up have I really had a chance to actually explore more of it. Right. And most of the exploration is Toronto, Ottawa, Windsor, London, Montreal, like the big cities. So it's only doing the small town one-nighters where everyone's drunk in a bar and you're almost like, oh, that's just a drunk person. Like, oh no, that's small town Canada. They always just goofy and silly and small. So like you, those are not the experiences that I had. That's not my Canada. My Canada looks like the U.S. cities.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Well, that's it.
The big.
So that's from the point of view of a broadcaster who wants to give a distinct Canadian flavor. It's not going to feel that way if it's a big Canadian city, because it looks like a big American city, which is why Americans film in big Canadian cities to represent American cities. Yeah, because it's cheaper
and it looks like
So then a small town Canada has its own vibe that's different from small town.
Right. We have like what 8 major cities in Canada and 1,000 tiny little fucking towns.
And so and that's the thing is like they also, you know, the people who live there want to watch something that represents them as well. So in a way you are and so really
that's us on the big TV.
Well, you did that, not me, but you know, and people who live in big cities, they'll just watch American shows because it feels like it's close enough. And it feels like our experience in a big city. Yeah. So I mean, in a way, you could just look at it simply as supply and demand, and that. So, but then it's a matter of I can either cry about it and say like we need to, or I could say that's everybody's being served the way they want to be served, right? And that's why I should just go to the place where they make the TV that they're going to watch here in a big city,
right?
Might as well go there,
and that's smart. So how did
it's terrible.
Going to Los Angeles is terrible.
No, I just want to
derail the hopes and dreams. I'm like, if I work really hard, maybe in 10 years, I too would love to ultimately be in the States, only because I just find that that there's a star system. They actually give a shit about
there's that
talent.
Too. Yeah, there's that too.
You know what I mean? Here that they don't even recognize stand up as an art form. So it's kind of like, I think I just heard Nathan McIntosh do a joke. He was here a couple of years ago and he was just doing a quick show. Hilarious bastards. And he was like, I just did this joke about how like nobody in Canada cares about you until you go to the States, and then the States approves of you. Then everyone's proud to say, oh, you know, that guy's Canadian, right?
It's pretty standard.
He's, you know, like, so it's kind of like, okay, well then that's, if you ever expect to be able to make it here, you got to go down there first. You have to get the big brother seal of approval. Yeah.
Well, it's not, I like the analogy to like, of like, you know, it's like the hot girl, right? So it's like if you start dating the hot girl, then all the other girls, well, I didn't really notice him before, but I mean, he must have something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you first went there, like what was that like? Because I know what it's like trying to do shows in Canada.
Yeah, it's you know, it's like it's like I said, a lot of competition, trying to get up at little shows here and there, and it's just a lot of like hustling for that and all that sort of thing. I mean, if you're lucky and you have a credit in the States going down or something like that, then that'll be easier. And if you've got like credit and you're on some show and you got representation, and that's going to make it a lot easier just to kind of get around. But if you're just going down and just doing it, then it's like any scene where you're just getting up, trying to get up wherever you can and whatever shows are available, and just do that for a while until maybe somebody puts you on another thing and maybe you get some momentum on that or whatever. And I do a bit of that. Like I like to, I'm do shows around there, but I think it's also important to just kind of be working on your own things as well. And like for me, I'm sort of looking towards more just making things myself, like,
right.
Short film, that kind of thing.
That's what happens when I forget to put it on silent.
I was going to say,
not silent. Sorry, that's my Wi-Fi. That's the iPad's plugged in. It happens all the time.
So that actually came through the mic almost. Like I heard it in the headphones.
You heard it in the headphones because all the iPad, our two mics are plugged into the recorder. Mm-hmm. So the reason we have headphones on is so that in the event that things like that happen, or if someone's tapping something or whatever, we can hear it in real time and eliminate it.
Certainly.
As opposed to just recording, not realizing that was being recorded too. Someone could be calling, and if I wasn't looking and didn't see the iPad, it would be ring, ring.
Yeah.
And it's all recorded onto one track.
Interesting. So it records the notifications as well as
anything that would have gone off on the iPad. It's plugged into the earphones, so it's just coming out of the ear jack and plugged into the recorder. Got it. Yeah, it's like if your phone told you something, music, I turn music on that, and it would just start playing over top of us. Was it like I don't know. Like I said, I'm very, very fascinated about the going down there. So you went down there, you did all that stuff, getting on shows and things like that, but you did come back. What happened, if you don't mind my asking, the first time where you're like,
I just had some bad luck with the green card application.
Can you go down during the application process?
Well, no, I already had a work visa and I was applying for my green card while I was down there.
Oh, okay.
And then it just rejected, and so I had to kind of like it was like I had to kind of like start over again in a way. Like I had to get some new press and new stuff. So I had to come back to Canada, and that just took a long time. It was like starting over in Canada. It was a bit of a bitch, but c'est la vie,
Sorry to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I ask how long you were down there for the first time?
Like 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, that's a good work.
And it could take that long for the
3-year work visa, and then
you applied for the green card to stay, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have your green card now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sure. It's exhausting.
Take it away. This is the part I give you the praise. You're supposed to take it all back now.
I'm just saying, it's sort of like, yeah.
I'm sure it's exhausting, but I mean, that's also I got to tell you, man. I mean, I work hard at things. I have a lot of people go, I could never do what you do, and just the small little things I do. Like I still can't believe that after almost 2 years. No, it's not even almost 2 years. A year and a half in, I still haven't been late once getting the podcast out.
Right.
To me, that's huge. I'm late for everything. Only by 1 or 2 minutes, but enough to be technically late for everything. And the fact that the podcast has never been late, I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
See?
I feel good about that. But little accomplishments. You moved, halfway down the continent, and you're performing and like, again, you're working and you're still grinding it. And again, you're at the gym with the heaviest weights, and you're still working things out. Like, I mean, I think that's absolutely incredible. Just the fact to have done that, because that's, like I said, to me, that's intimidating, is to go like, what if I go down there and I know the cost of living is a lot more and it's difficult and it's competitive. Like, I guess the fear is obviously one of the things holding me back, without question. Just hearing me say it, it's the fear and the concern. But you're doing it, and it's like, and there's enough people who, again, that first time getting the rejection, that's enough for them to cash in their chips.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for me, it was like, that wasn't a rejection of the industry. That was just immigration deciding. Of course. So I didn't really feel like, I felt like, well, I'm not done yet. Like, just because this guy behind a desk decided that, I wasn't worthy for him.
Right.
So it's like, what am I going to do? Like,
but some people will take that and let it bring them down.
I guess. I mean, I certainly wasn't happy. It took me some time to kind of get back to doing things again.
Right.
But inevitably, it was like, what else am I going to do at this point in my life? You know what I mean? It's like, I've spent this much time towards some goal. And so you
couldn't just send them a portfolio of the Magic School Bus drawings and be like, I'm actually just trying to apply at Pixar. If you could take a look at Magic School Bus was part of your youth too, sir.
It's funny you should say that, because Pixar did want to see my reel when I was graduating, and
really,
and I chose not to, because I knew that would have been what I do. I mean, it would have been my life. It would have been like, long days, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to just have a day job that I could go away from and then do stand up at night. And I chose, of course, I look back, I'm like, oh, I could have probably still gotten my green card then. And
yeah, they'd get the green card for
and then
you.
quit,
And then,
but yeah, I have friends who went in that direction. Who is still, I mean, I have a buddy who did get a job at Pixar, and he worked his way up, became like a supervising animator. I saw him like in the extras on the Incredibles DVD, and then
oh yeah,
yeah, and then he was working on something technically, and was working on something that turned into kind of a bit of a story, and then he went to John Lasseter, who's like the big story
I know
guy
John
there.
Lasseter's, yeah.
And John's like, yeah, keep working on that. And then so he turned it into a short film, which I guess a year or two ago won the Academy Award.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was my friend of mine won an Oscar.
What was the short film?
Fucking guy. He was.
Yeah, it sounds like he really made the wrong choice.
Well, he was passionate. I mean, he put work into animation and school that I didn't.
I wish I could surprise you and be like, well, guess who we've got?
Yeah,
and he just sits here, and as you talk him up, he just sits here and then slowly busts you down.
I'd love
for
it.
all the horrible. No, you see the thing, the Oscars. Let me tell you. Do you know how hard it was to find parking that night at the fucking?
Well, I will say this. I mean, the guy is talented and he deserves what he gets, but also winning short film for Pixar is a little bit of a. Pixar has a little bit of weight behind them. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for anybody else competing against Pixar for short animation.
Right. Yeah. Well, as soon as you go, and this next one's Pixar, they go, ooh.
Yeah, and then it's sort of like
this
it's sort of
one.
like, well, at least it was an honor to be nominated.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say about that? You asked me which one it was. It was the one about the. I don't remember what it's called. It was about the sandpipers, those little birds that kind of like run up and down the shore.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know the animation. Doesn't ring a bell. The only animation with birds I can think of is the one where they're all in the power lines and they start wiggling around. That was Pixar. That was just years and years and years ago.
That's a long time ago. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Well, anyway. You look it up, and I'll sit here and just talk about how I'm still thoroughly impressed that you go, you chase it. To me, that's taking a big leap of faith. It's passionate to move down to the States, but like I said,
know what else life is about. I don't know what else I would do.
Well, you'd have to find something. If you've got the moxie to...
No, but I mean, like I said, I chose stand-up because there was nothing else I could really have any interest in doing that seemed like it was going to be enjoyable.
But you've also said how you lose interest in just the idea of just going around doing stand-up too.
Absolutely. I'm fucking...
So what are you going to do? You're losing interest in that too.
I'm in a real pickle right
now. The last road is running out.
I'm in a real pickle, Josh.
You're like Doc and Marty. You're running out of train tracks. You got to get up to 88. What's going on here? Make the jump.
Yeah. Well, that's why I want to. That's why I'm kind of like looking into like making some films and like shorts and stuff like that, and kind of seeing how that feels. Because I feel like that's actually a better fit for my personality. I think part of the reason I don't like stand up is this idea of, you've got this act that you have to do. Oh, you have to get up and do it again.
Yeah,
I like this. I like the idea of
that it's doing it for you.
Yeah, you just write it. You get it just right. You hone it just down. You edit it just perfectly, and then there you go. Watch.
That's
it.
the album.
You
just
watch
need to do comedy albums, albums, and stick them out.
That's why I'm doing the way I'm doing them. That's why. Tonight there'll be some stuff that's like, it's not quite there, but I'll just pick the one that has, it's like I can just kind of pick a show that works,
Put it out there.
Yeah, it's at least I like control. I like a little more control than stand up gives. It's just it can be frustrating to have material that kind of works, and then it just so happens the audience that night doesn't get what you're doing, so now you got to perform it for them, even though they're not quite getting it as. I'd be just as happy to some extent. I mean, I say that because this is all I do, but the idea of just I'll make it and then you can enjoy it on your own. I don't have to deal with whether or not you're not liking it in the moment.
Yeah.
But
I know.
But that's also part of what can be fun about it is if they are liking it in the moment, then that's a lot more of a thrill than wondering, sitting at the back of the room and watching. That being said, I did a short film that I went to show it at like the Orlando Film Festival last year, and it was fun to watch it in front of an audience and see what they responded to and see. It's kind of fun to kind of go like, oh, you got it. Okay, I communicated the idea properly and you enjoyed it. All right.
Right. What was it called?
It was called, I kind of changed the name, but it's called Misguided Meditation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can people see it?
Yeah.
Where?
On like Vimeo. On my website, I have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if they go to alexnussbaum.com, Nussbaum. I just have it right there. You can just watch it. It's just like a silly little thing. I shot it in like half a day, and it was like just a camera, a microphone, me and another guy in one space. So it was like a very kind of like simple. Just I tried to. It's like a little challenge of like I'm going to try to make an idea, or doing something that just is the bare bones, and see if I can tell a story within that little.
Yeah,
and it's fun. It's silly. It's good. I like it.
Well, that's fun. All sorts of little projects like that where you're doing something short.
Yeah, so that was just like a kind of like something I threw together, and now I want to take it a little step further and get a proper production and do something.
We've played with little comedy ideas where sometimes you get an idea for something and you're like, "Fuck, this would be a funny joke," but this humor is communicated better in the form of a sketch or a short film or something. This is a funny visual thing, as opposed to a funny, just explained way.
Yeah. I mean, that's I kind of prefer that. Like, there's some material, there's stuff that I could try to do as a joke, but I feel like I'd rather do it as characters talking,
right?
Rather than me. But sometimes some of my bits that are the strongest or the audiences respond to most are the ones that are little sketches, like me doing a little act out for the whole portion of the bit.
Yeah.
Like that tends to be the stuff that I'll close with or whatever, So it's kind of in my nature that I think I'm better. I have some good jokes, but I think that I'm better at scenarios,
right?
And kind of acting them out and stuff like that. So really, that's probably what I should have been doing years ago. But it was, I was kind of like thinking, oh, I'll just do stand up, and then people will just put me in stuff, and then I'll get, and I'll get to a level where I can just call my own shots. But sometimes, life gives you what you get, and you take it, and you got to deal with it,
right?
And then you got to do it yourself or something like that. And this is time probably for the last 10, 15 years, is people just do stuff themselves, make YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff.
Podcasts, all that kind of, all of
but
it.
I never really, I haven't really, there was never a moment where I really felt like I wanted to, or I felt like I don't know. Now I'm just in a good position because I have the freedom to do that sort of thing. I have because of these albums, I can live off of royalties.
When I grew up, we had some perfectly good toys, right? My mother grew up in Russia. My friends would get like a Nintendo. I would get a Matryoshka doll. Right? That's the wooden doll that you crack open and it's the same wretched doll but smaller inside. That's the Ukraine's gift to the world. Enjoy, children of Earth. The Matryoshka. That's what my mom told me it was called. It's a Matryoshka. I was like, Yeah. It must have been a guy who tried to pitch that over here, fresh off the boat from the Ukraine with a Matryoshka doll and a dream. Bursts into a toy company with confidence. Hey! Stop your toy-making machines. And behold, new toy sensation. It's Matryoshka. You're curious? I show. The way it works is we begin by opening the doll to same doll, smaller. Oh, delightful. Unexpected. But wait, there's more. We only get the same doll, smaller still. I feel like a child of all ages. We only get small again. Up and smaller, up and smaller, up and smaller. Can't open. Disappointment. Good lesson for the children. Meanwhile, there's like a toy executive. He's like, what are you talking about? Shouldn't we have like a little surprise? Like a little prize they don't expect? Wouldn't that be... No prize, okay? No surprise. Only a letdown. Like life. Don't try to change Matryoshka. It will always and forever be Matryoshka, the toy of hopelessness. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your lives, everybody. That is it for me.
So yeah, that's another interesting thing because I'm
not telling.
Did you? No. I don't want to know your. No. But I can imagine people just not having the tact to not go. Oh, so how much do you? But that's the thing that interests me too, is because it's not just about making the album for sale. Yours is. I know that your last one, a number of bits, is on Apple Music because I was listening to it earlier today, and is that something that obviously make an album you have to submit that to to Apple, right? You submit it to iTunes or whatever and say, hey, I've got this album. Can you put it into your Rolodex?
Yeah, I kind of, I think, did I do that separately? I think there's like, companies that just sort of distribute it across all digital platforms for you.
Okay.
So I just sort of did have them do that because, to be honest, it doesn't matter to me. Like that's not like where I'm going to be making my money.
No, of course not. But
It's
like
just-
you
it's
said,
just a way.
do you get?
But the royalties don't come from that. Royalties are from satellite radio.
That's what I was going to say. Satellite radio is another one of them. And that's one that you would have to submit to, I assume, or is it the same thing? You give it to this one company and they put it on Apple. They submit it to satellite. Or
Yeah, satellite. Yeah, I submitted myself to satellite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard. I think I've heard a bit of it. Are you on? I've heard you on Laugh USA, and I was super excited for you there.
Yes,
because
they play me there. That's kind of a funny thing is that they play my. And this is another example of like, dance with the one who brung you kind of thing. Like
right.
Like here I am. I'm Canadian, but most of my airplay is the American station.
Yep.
They play me about, let's say 5 times more than the Canadian, like 5 tracks to 1 track of Canadian airplay. Mm-hmm.
And that same thing.
Guess I'll move there then.
DJ is on Laugh USA all the time.
Yeah.
I do hear him a reasonable amount. As I was saying, I've heard you on Canada Laughs as well, but there's ones like you just hear. There's like a lot of Canadian comics on the Laugh USA one, and nobody, mostly Canadian or American would see the name and know any better. Yeah. But being in the industry, I look at it and go, that guy's Canadian. Oh, that's another Canadian. Oh, that's another Canadian.
That's right.
It's nice that they like us.
Yeah, right.
There. And then the ones that
funny
you hear.
is funny. I mean, that's the democratic quality of America is that they're just like, whatever. Like if it gets, if it seems to be good, then let's use it rather than kind of all the.
Is it the small town? Yeah. Everyone's represented, blah, blah, blah.
So, comedy. And I come from like, I like funny, that purest sense of just funny.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not as always as curious, but the application of how funny can be socially relevant or whatever.
Right. Yeah, this joke about frozen yogurt. Well, hold on a second. Yeah. Is it fair trade organic? Where is it sourced from? It's just a fucking ice cream joke. Go fuck yourself.
I mean I kind of feel like comedy is like math, and then like
Asians are better at it,
and then how you you can take it.
I like trying to fuck it up.
No, just you can take it. You can, that's all you.
Catch you laughing at something.
That's all you. It's not going to be the race.
I'm
stuff.
still waiting for you to get back to your Louis C.K. jerking off thing that we started.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I was going to talk about it.
To hear another, honestly, it's like to hear more people talk about some guy beating off. It's like, really, do we need to hear? Again, let's take another take though.
Yeah. What do you think, angle. Person not relevant to everything?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like you know what I like? You know what I like about this time is that generally assholes are getting called out.
Yeah.
Overall.
Oh,
I mean the sexual harassment thing, that's one area of it. But any scenario where somebody who's in control thinks that they can do whatever they want with no checks, it's like I get a kick out of, because I don't, I've never liked, it's like a bully, I didn't like anyone's a prick, a bully. I don't want them to be rewarded, and we live in a society where that's rewarded. It's like it's like
it's an age of more accountability.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I just fun to watch somebody who thinks that they're untouchable get brought down. That's. I like that aspect of it. Aside from all the specifics, I just like seeing that, and so I don't care who it is or what the scenario is. It's sort of like I just like to watch. To analyze the specifics of it is not as interesting to me as that. Right. It's kind of this social media with all how annoying it is. I like that it's given a certain kind of power to people who don't have power.
Right,
and that is the part that I like about this whole thing. It's almost like the things are being revealed. I almost think it's kind of, I mean, I don't know anything about the Bible, of like New Testament or whatever, but I like the fact that revelations, like this is like digital revelations.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just like using that term.
You're still trying to find the name of it. Why don't you just put in so-and-so Academy Award?
Yeah, I was about to. Oh, here.
Okay, because that was like 15 minutes ago.
I know, it's because I kind of...
You just finished telling me, what, was it half an hour ago? You're
matter.
Like...
They'll look it up.
I just want to get the word before you did. Conformist. And then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, well, I leave it to you to find it quick. And instead
I'll find it.
You're
Hold on.
slower than the second coming, considering the fact that
I
you brought
got
up
it. It's
religion.
right here. I got
What
it
is
right
it?
here.
Oh, there you go. It just took a couple.
I just didn't type in the
jabs.
right. I didn't type in the right thing. It's right here. Well, wait a moment. It's not. It's in. What is it called again?
Just type in his name and Academy Award. That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah, I could do that. I just
Because then it's going to say so and so, and it'll fill in won the Academy Award
I
for.
put in Pixar Oscar short, and I thought that'd be enough.
For Christ's sakes!
Oh, look at that! There's a YouTube interview with him. My buddy Alan. Piper. It was called Piper.
Piper. You said that earlier, did you
No,
not? Oh,
no, I
because it's
said
Sandpiper.
Sandpiper.
It's called Piper.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. Look up Piper Oscar thing, whatever, and it'll have a bunch.
I don't know. What do they have to look at? It has nothing to do with me. I just wanted this for my own interest.
You knew someone of importance.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build your importance, and you're tearing it down.
Yeah.
And now he's like, it had nothing to do with me. Jesus. Do you have like and this sounds so stupid.
Are we wrapping this up soon?
If you want.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
I gotta figure out what bits I'm doing tonight.
I wanted to ask though, now that you're there, you were saying to me earlier, you're not touring as much.
Yeah.
In terms of just like wanting to be on the road every single week. So are you mostly in Los Angeles now?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you doing there besides stand up? Like you're going out, you're working on new material.
Yeah.
Are you doing other things as well?
Well, not really. I'm not really like I'm not writing for anything or auditioning for any. So that's why I'm just kind of at this point building up some projects that I want to do for myself. Like it's kind of like I for this next year I'm going to develop a few things on my own and kind of develop a kind of a body of work, so to speak. And then when that's finished, because I always feel like the idea of doing things for other people, I've done a lot of that where I'm like hustling to get a writing job so I can write on a show or act on a show.
Right.
And so many times it's like, it's so much work to try to get somebody else to prove what you do.
Right.
And a lot of times these aren't even things that I'm that crazy about. They're just a job. And it's this weird thing where you get caught up with this idea that I want that job and I realized just do some stuff myself.
Yeah. Be your own producer.
Yeah, and exactly. And then from that, then I can show them what it looks like when I'm in control of the whole thing.
Yep.
Rather than say like, well, if it was this, I'd do it differently or whatever. I'm actually just doing it my way. And then from that, once I've got those things, then I can sell myself in a different way. Because right now, it's all about kind of how you sell yourself. And it's like, are you a good actor? Are you a good writer? Do you want to do those things? Do you just want to be a touring stand-up? And it's like, I know I'm not going to sell myself as an actor necessarily in LA, like unless you're like in your early 20s or something like that. It's just, or if you get like a lot of heat at some certain point, it's hard to kind of get representation to be interested unless you've got something that they can see they can sell.
Right. Of course.
I know as a
it's
guy,
a business at the end of the day.
and a guy in my position, I don't have something flashy to sell in that sense as a face. And then as a writer, I don't really want to be in writing rooms. I've done that and I don't like the experience. It's kind of like an office job that I don't necessarily want.
Right.
Which then brings me back to like, well, then it's me calling the shots and producing something myself where I get to hire myself as the writer and cast myself and all that.
Yeah.
Well,
and again, it goes back to, which seems to be a theme that pops back in, is the control.
Yeah.
Is being able to be in control. It's the same thing with the very beginning of stand up when you're talking to guys who are like, oh, this club won't put me on and I can't get on that show and so.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are just business models.
Mm-hmm.
You can be like, hey, you guys put me on your thing, or you can just go somewhere and go, I'm making a show and I'm calling the shots, as you say, and being in control of it. And you're also assuming the risk.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a lot of people. And that's one of the things that I've talked about is just that taking the risk is an intimidating thing.
It is, but it's also, the risk then.
I turned off the fucking, I didn't turn off the sound. I turned off the Wi-Fi, so I wasn't getting external notifications, but the ones already in the calendar are coming in. I'm so sorry. Now it's on silent.
God. Well, that's the sound means that we got to wrap this up. Isn't that what that is?
Whatever you like, brother.
No, I was just gonna say that just to finish the thought, is it's like nothing ventured, nothing gained, that kind of thing, right? So
no risk, no reward.
Yeah. So, and it's, to me, it's not even, well, for me, it's not really a risk. For me, it's just like, a fun thing to do. It's a fun project. It's something that I'll do with my own money just because I want to try doing it, right? I mean, it's like somebody decides they want to take up painting, that's what else are you going to do? And so it's just, it costs money. The production costs money, but that's why I'm going to try to take advantage of what stand-up has given me. The fact that stand-up is ironically, instead of it being just the stepping stone I thought maybe it might be, it's now in a way going to help me fund something else that I want to do.
Right.
So it's a weird thing where like I may end up getting to where I want to go, but just not in the way that I wanted to, and over a way longer number of years. But it is for me. It's kind of just what I need to do, and I think that if I got a chance to do it, it would fit. It would fit, and I think I'd do it. I think I'd enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember who I was talking with recently, but they were saying how like they got to a point with doing stand up and the touring, and they're like, I don't want to do stand up because I want to, not because I have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like being on the road. It's like, it's the same with the passion projects. I want to do these projects. I'm willing to put my own money, but it's at least I'm doing it because I want to, and it's not because I have to do it or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking, when I was looking for jobs, writing jobs and stuff, it was because I had to pay the rent like that. I wasn't making enough. I wasn't making money as a touring comic. So therefore I had to find other ways to make money. And so writing was, I thought, well, that's good at least because I'm developing a skill that I could use. And in fact, it was good. Like now when I approach what I want to do, I'm approaching it with having had a professional experience in all the things that I want to do. So that gives me kind of a confidence in what I'm doing. So that's good too. Like I may have written on things I wasn't crazy about, but I know what it's like to write on a show, and I know how a show kind of works. And so I may as well just do it myself. But it's funny though. It's funny. It's just so weird.
I just love the big sigh at the end of it. I talk about how I could do it myself.
Oh my God, so much stuff to do. But it is funny though, because it's like, for whatever reason, it's like such a big deal. Like, I'm going to do it myself. There's like, fucking 14-year-olds just pick up a camera and do it themselves. It's just that I just think it's because you start with a certain model of the way showbiz works. Yeah. When like when it's like, they pluck you and then they put you in a sitcom and they like all that stuff, and then that goes all away, and then it's like, okay, now what? Now you get to do it the way you want. Well, wait a moment, but I'm used to doing it in a professional kind of way. So then the idea, and then I'm thinking like, well, I don't want to necessarily just do a bunch of low budget videos. I kind of think I want it to be at a certain quality because, and that's another thing. I think we were talking earlier about like putting out a lot of like a comedy special a year or something like that, and how everything's about content now. And my thing is I've always been more quality over quantity. Right. And so that's the thing is that
likewise,
so that's why and I think that's fine. I think that it's good to actually be the opposite of the way the things are in the industry. Is like, so for me, it's like instead of like doing a bunch of videos, I'd rather do like one good short film, and like have that, because I feel like when I see that, it has more of an impact.
It's like all these YouTube videos. Someone, all right, guys, make sure like the idea that the title and the image thumbnail has to be misleading as to what you're actually about to watch, because that's the only way you can get someone to watch it. And then it's like, hey, this new movie's coming out. Like it's like check out the Captain Marvel trailer. Right. And then you go, hey guys, so the Captain Marvel trailer hasn't come out yet, and we're all pretty excited to see it. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be good? What do you think it's been delayed because blah 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 blah? What do you think? All right, click like, comment, subscribe, blah blah. And I'm like, that there was nothing to that. Like they meant people.
There's people who just want this is a time where you don't necessarily have to have talent to be seen.
Yes.
And there's some people who just want to be seen, and it's not, they don't want to be admired for how clever they can be, which is kind of like, one of the things that drive us to some extent.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of all started with reality TV, which is, by the way, was what reality TV really hit hard right around the time that I was kind of ready to like hit the industry from TV. Right. It was literally when sitcoms died completely. Yeah. Right when I was like, hey, I think I might be ready now for, I think I'm ready. And it's sort of like, oh no, we're not looking for that anymore.
Yeah. We found all these people who work for free.
Yeah. And it
turns out it's way more popular to watch people break down on television than it is.
So there's that too. If I can say one thing to the listeners who are interested in.
They're already gone.
That sounds about right. Yeah. I was thinking.
They laughed. It's just you and me at this one.
That's good. But if you're talking about like how does it work and what do I do and all that, I think that the other thing too is you got to just realize that sometimes it's about what happens in the industry, and it's outside of your control too, right?
Well, the biggest example that I use for people to really get an idea of like what it's like, because like you said, you got to have some heat on you or whatever for people to want to sell you. And I thought, it didn't occur to me right away because I was younger, but the whole like American Idol thing, it's like, yeah, why would you as a record label go out and spend a bunch of money, developing someone and then having to promote them and having to sell them and then hope that they catch on and they sell all these albums when you can just take them for free and put several of them on all at once and go, all right, which one do you like? Now vote for them. We want to know which one you're going to buy when we start packaging them, because they're all working for free in the chance that maybe they'll win. And then you go, okay, cool. Now that everyone has voted for you, we just make this album and it's already sold.
It's so easy, yeah.
It's like people are like, oh, what a great prize. It's like, no, they're saving so much money by
And also
basically deciding.
and they're getting free promotion.
Yeah.
It's like now we follow this person's story. We're completely invested in them.
100%.
And we know what
you
they look.
already picked him.
Yeah.
You guys picked him. Not they're like, oh, we're going to get you involved. No, we're just finding out who you're going to pay for.
Sickeningly brilliant.
Yeah. And now it's with everything. The America's Got Talent. Everything is you tell us who you're willing to buy before we put anything into them. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant. And it's that's like you said, that's not sitcoms anymore. That's reality. People who will for free and air their dirty laundry on television.
I mean, I really didn't want, I mean, I kind of look back and I was like, I guess I made something of a mistake, but the idea of like doing these stand-up competitions.
Oh.
Because it's so out of your control. It's like you could do a set that you think is pretty good and then they just make you look like a terrible comic, and I just hated the idea of giving that control and that power, where they just kind of start, all right, now it's time for the judges to criticize your act, and I'm like, yeah, and that's what it is, right? That's what like a last comic standing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I've
great.
actually never watched that. I know.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't watch it, but I get, it's great if it works out for you.
Yeah.
Like it's great as a comic that you then have the credit and the exposure, and that's fine if it works out. But if you're not one of the lucky ones, now you get to be
the living joke.
Yeah. And then you get to be, and then they cut it together to make you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
They
actually did that on Dragon's Den with
I saw that.
Yeah. And I love that they were wearing the shirts too, thinking it would be a great fucking promo for them. Now it just looks like them and the industry is shitty. Jokes on Hold was the product, guys. If you want to Google Jokes on Hold Dragon's Den,
so sad.
You'll see the pitch. You'll see how they made them look like a laughing stock and how their decision to wear T-shirts with a comedy club chain on them made that look even worse too. Whatever, dude. I do want to let you go because I know that that you got to go get prepared for tonight. But I do enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, it was a good time.
You're gonna do great. I can't wait for the album. I asked you the other night. You said no. I would imagine you still don't have the title for the new one.
It's either more me or creating content or something to that effect, maybe.
Yeah. Where can just for fun? Where can people see what's going on with you? Do you tweet? Do you Instagram? Do you Facebook?
Yeah, I think I'm more at Instagram. I mean, I'm pretty much across all platforms. I'm at Alex Nussbaum.
Nussbaum.
That's right. ALEX.
ALEX.
Nussbaum. Yeah. But Instagram is usually the one that I just find it's easier to just put up a picture. I don't really tweet other than to kind of retweet. Like
I don't know how. Yeah, and I tweet shit, but I'm not.
I kind of get that whole fiasco when I had to go back to Canada was right around the time all those things got popular. So kind of like I wasn't able to ride that wave, and so I just kind of like use it just to post where I'm playing.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, and for anyone who's listening still, Alex is at Absolute Comedy all weekend in Ottawa. Are you doing Toronto and Kingston after this, or have you already done that?
No, I'm just doing Ottawa. I usually just do the one week to come up and do a week, and
yeah.
So next time I might do Kingston or Toronto or something like that.
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll follow you on Twitter. They'll see what's going on. If you happen to be in the Ottawa area, go to absolutecomedy.ca and get your you can see what show works for you. Come see Alex. He's super funny. Thank you so much for being a part of this, dude, and for patiently sitting through all of my questions and stories.
Quite a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, buddy.